Hello and welcome to iBuzz. I'm your host Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you the latest and most exciting news from entertainment world. In today's episode, we will discuss the future of movie theaters, followed by a movie review on Space Jam 2. But first things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Camila Cabello responds to why backup dancer donned blackface in recent performance. Sean Penn won't return to Gaslit set unless all cast and crew receive Covid vaccinations. Jackie Mason, rabbi turned comedian, dies at the age of 93. And Chucky reveals first trailer at Comic-Con 2021. And now moving to our discussion story. The movie industry was in flux before the pandemic hit, but after a year of theaters being shut down and hundreds of movies getting postponed, the future of this industry is even less certain. What will be the future of movie industry in a post-COVID world? To discuss this, we are joined by Freddie Deighton, who is a film critic. Deighton, who is a film critic. Freddie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Freddie, the release of hundreds of movies was delayed. The new James Bond movie, No Time to Die, was originally scheduled to be released in April 2020 and is now set for October 2021. Same thing happened with Black Widow, which was also pushed back numerous times from May 2020 to July 2021. Now, in your opinion, how does pushing back a movie affect its position in box office?
I think pushing it back a lot does kind of garner kind of more interest in the film, because the more it's pushed back, the more people get impatient to watch it, especially with something like James Bond. But there is also the counter argument that people could also become impatient and just lose interest in a property.
Absolutely.
And become sick of waiting, and so it could have either effect on the box office. I think James Bond, when it eventually does come out, will probably do well, because that's definitely the kind of property that everyone has been waiting to see.
With the compromised situation of movie theaters, this is where the streaming giants, stepped in. They have taken a lot of advantage in this situation, of course, in a good way. However, movie theater owners still see it as a threat. At what level do you think the streaming services are harming the theater industry?
That's an interesting. I think Spike Lee said recently that we all thought, I think it was in the 90s, that TV was going to take over from films, and obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think cinema always finds a way. Streaming has taken a lot of the brunt of entertainment, but I feel like sites like Disney Plus are looking for kind of a mesh system with streaming and cinemas, because obviously now the MCU, the Marvel films, are expanding out to having shows on Disney Plus, that if you don't watch those shows, you won't necessarily understand what's going on in the films that you go to see in the cinema. So they want the money from streaming, but they also want the money from cinema, because cinema is still the best way to make movies, make money from movies. And because though if you wanted to buy, say, Black Widow for £20 on Premiere from Disney Plus, that would be worth it if you were in a family and you didn't want to pay the prices for your children and everyone. But for the average Marvel fan who just goes either with them just by themselves or with a friend, it's much more worth it to go to the cinema, especially for a film like Black Widow, which is a big spectacle event. So you want to watch it on the big screen anyway.
Right.
So I
yes, please.
go on. Sorry. I don't think. I think people will always want to go to the cinema. With COVID and everything, obviously the people might still be scared to go, but I think eventually that will pass.
Right. And Freddie, Warner Brothers started releasing its new movies on HBO Max. Disney Plus followed, just the way you mentioned, they followed a similar model by releasing some new movies on streaming for an additional cost. However, movie theaters are blaming the streaming services for the same day release, which affects the cinema business. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with what Christopher Nolan said about the HBO Max situation, which was kind of, it was a very last-minute decision by Warner Brothers, and they didn't inform the people that were the other production companies. And I can see why you would do that, because in America, the situation with cinemas, I think they've been open for quite a long time, but people are just still very scared to go.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea to give people an alternative to going to the cinema to watch their films, because Warner Brothers still earn the money from HBO Max, I assume. So it's still a good way for them to make money in this period of getting used to COVID and getting used to the idea of getting back out of there. So so though it was a bit selfish from Warner Brothers' perspective, I definitely understand that you should give people the alternative if they don't wish to.
Okay. So Freddie, now the movie theaters, since they have started to partially reopen, not too many movies are there to be showcased. There is a 45% decrease in productions. Then there are delays, rescheduling, and whatnot. The moviegoers are there, but not ample movies are there for the theaters. Again, do you think it is basically because of the availability of an alternative service called online streaming, Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus, and whatnot, due to which movie makers seem to be relaxed and their reliance on movie theaters has decreased?
I feel like actually they have got a lot of movies that they could show. Like the amount of films that were delayed in 2020 are a lot more than the films that have come out now. And yeah, I think they definitely have enough to kind of keep us entertained. But it's just they want to spread it out, and it's the ample money making schedule for them. So I mean, I think there's still more going on streaming, definitely, but the films that are coming out, I think, are still the good big events like Fast and Furious 9. I think that did really well. That's the kind of film that that they would never have put on streaming, and I think. And
it's a kind of favor to the movie industry, which, I mean, it explains a lot about the show must go on. But the movie makers, the cinema owners, they're not very much happy about the streaming services. And this is why Cannes Film Festival came up with some reservations for other film festivals that allowed showcasing of the movies that were not screened in cinemas. And their own list of competitors comprised of those movies which were only screened in theaters. The organizers also blamed streaming services for audience theft. How do you comment on that?
This is a big issue especially with the HBO Max's model of releasing things on streaming the day they come out to cinema. It's very easy for you to just turn on a screen camera on your computer, turn on the film, and just record it and release it worldwide. And that's an issue that I think that is probably the biggest issue with streaming, is that it's I can just look up Black Widow online and watch it without having to pay anything.
Right.
In good quality as well, because piracy's existed since film has existed, but in the early days of a film's release before streaming, you just have someone in a cinema with a camera, and that is a terrible way to watch a film because you just get the audio of the screen. So this new advancement in the way we stream has definitely given an opening to pirates,
right?
And that's definitely something that should definitely be fought against if they want to keep their money, basically.
Right. Freddie, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
That was Freddie Deighton discussing the future of movie theaters. And now moving to other story details of the day. Camila Cabello has given outraged fans the answer to why a backup dancer was performing in blackface during her most recent performance. The singer had appeared on Jimmy Fallon to perform her latest single, Don't Go Yet, but it was quick to spark controversy due to the backup dancer. Part of her performance consisted of multiple dancers donning 80s costumes, which reflected the theme of her track. The singer later took to Twitter to share her side of the story. The point was to try to make each person look like an over-the-top 80s character, just like in the video, including a white dude with a terrible orange spray tan. Sean Penn will not return to the set of his new show, Gaslit, until the entire cast and crew have received COVID vaccinations. The star's representative confirmed on Friday. Penn plays the role of Attorney General John Mitchell in the political drama, which is a modern-day take on the Watergate scandal. Julia Roberts portrays John's wife, Martha, in the show, which is due to air on Starz later this year. Penn issued the announcement because the 60-year-old star was not satisfied with the vaccination requirement imposed by NBC Universal, the studio behind his latest production. Jackie Mason, the U.S. comedian and actor, has died at the age of 93. The stand-up comedian was ordained as a rabbi before turning to show business in the 1950s. He was well known for his social commentary, talk show appearances, and one-man shows on Broadway. Mason won numerous awards in his career, including a Tony Award and an Emmy for voicing Krusty the Clown's father on The Simpsons. Comedians around the world have paid tribute to the star on social media. Chucky releases its new trailer. The calendar flips to August, and soon, spooky season will be right around the corner. SY, FY, and USA Network are getting a leg up on the celebration by releasing the first trailer for Chucky, the network's new revival featuring the murderous doll. Ignoring Orient's 2019 reboot, Chucky is set sometime after the events of Cult of Chucky and serves as a direct sequel to the film. While the main cast is largely different, Brad Dourif is returning as the voice of the character, and other actors from the film franchise, namely Jennifer Tilly, will return in recurring roles. That's it from Newsroom. We will be right back after a quick short break with a movie review. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's review time, and the movie is none other than Space Jam 2, which is a latest release. Superstar LeBron and his young son get trapped in a digital space by a Rouge AI. To get home safely, LeBron teams up with Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and the rest of the Looney Tunes gang for a high-stakes basketball game against the AI's digitized champions of the court. To review the movie, we have film critic Chris Gelderd with us. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hope you're well.
Thank you very much. So Chris, an old classic revamped in a modern fashion. Let's talk about the initial thoughts on this sequel. What did you think when you first saw the movie?
Well, with trepidation, I was nervous because I think the 1996 original is such a beloved classic for what it was at the time. And with most films now, I think if you remake or reboot a film that has such an impact on a generation, it's going to be a very, very risky move. And unfortunately, I don't think this film was needed or worked as a sequel / reboot to the franchise, really.
Right.
The heart was there. There was good heart, but I just don't think it was needed, really, in this day and age.
So you think that this sequel is not a step up for its predecessor?
I don't know. I think it was just a very modern carbon copy, really. Obviously, an NBA star is transported to a Looney Tunes world who has to face off against computerized NBA villains. It's a recycled template. You know, there's nothing new. There's nothing revolutionary about it. I know it's animation and you can only do so much, but there was nothing on offer for new viewers or old that was worth investing in, I don't think.
And you think that the point of innovation was missing in this movie, and that is why it was not needed to be made? Because otherwise, we've seen a lot of remakes coming, from the last year, because not a lot of people were going to cinemas. They were just, relying on streaming giants and whatnot. So there were like a lot of second parts of so many movies. So do you think that lack of innovation is something that it was not required for this movie to be made?
I think so, yeah, because like you said, during and before the pandemic hit, people needed a reason to go back to the cinema, be it with like the recent, the Marvel, Black Widow, the big franchise, new sequels, new original films.
Yeah.
And Space Jam, again, it's trying to reference the past and make people think, oh, it's a cult classic. We're going to go back to a time when we loved to see Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny playing on screen together. But again, when you watch it, the children may laugh a little bit, but as grown-ups or the majority of film fans, I don't think the draw is there. It more suits a streaming service. It's not a big blockbuster pull in terms of something new or something fresh to get people back into the cinema seats.
But don't you think that it worked as a bond between the current generation and the Looney Tunes from the 90s? Because some critics said that it did set the mood for the 90s Looney Tunes fans. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that is very true, because obviously watching it, there's moments where the 2D Looney Tunes morph into 3D versions. So again, they're keeping it very modern, very high tech. But it's almost like in this Pixar world we live in with animation, the bar has been set so high now. I watched it and I felt that the Looney Tunes characters, as much as they're loved and they're classic, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Bugs Bunny, they belong to an era that has been and gone, or they're more fitting in a Saturday morning cartoon show rather than a big 2-hour feature film. Because with the likes of, say, Toy Story, Up, all these major films, the Looney Tunes are almost, again, there's nothing innovative about them. We've seen it all before. We know what's going to happen. It's wacky, it's fun. Yeah. But for animation-wise, I don't know if they can step up now to meet what younger fans may expect in terms of humor, style, etc.
Right. And what do you think of the screenplay, and how appropriate the depth do you think the plot had for a kids' movie?
It was a nice plot. There's a lot of, it's very safe. The father-son bonding, wanting to aspire to be someone, but you have hurdles along the way. You have to overcome your inner demons to be someone worthy, or to get the respect of a father figure or a friend. Yeah. But again, it's just shrouded in a recycled template. And again, I know it counts on the animation and the wackiness to balance that out with the message that's being delivered for younger fans. But I think it's lost in the, if you've seen this, the amount of product placement. Yeah. It's just jam-packed with references to Superman, to Batman, Harry Potter, Mad Max, even Casablanca. There's so much Warner Brothers material chucked in at the audience that you lose the core element of what the film should be about. And the core element, it is there. Like, so when you watch it, there is a nice sentiment to it. So that's granted, but it's lost, I think, in the modern pop culture reference that Space Jam 2 falls back on too much, to depend on a soul film.
Right, and also like there was an influx of characters. They were like, just you mentioned, there were too many characters, which might be unnecessary for this movie to be in.
That's right, yes. And I mean, if you watch the film again, you spend your time looking in the background because there's people that pop up from other films like The Mask or It, Pennywise the Clown.
Yeah.
And there's just so much going on that you're looking for, spot the film reference or, oh, there's Harry Potter music, that's a Batman symbol. And it's fun for 5 minutes, but it just detracts from what the film should be about as itself. Because back in the 1996 original with Michael Jordan, it was very much focused on that. An NBA star, Looney Tunes, a bit of self-reference, but that was it.
Right.
I think, again, in this modern era, it's very much social media based. It's just too much, I think, which is a shame, because it took away what could have worked for the film.
Right. And Chris, some people have been criticizing LeBron's acting, yet it seems to have improved within the movie as it goes forward. Do you think it is justified to expect from a sports person to be really good at acting as well? Because with LeBron's addition, we see a very natural element in Space Jam. I mean, he actually acted as a sports person rather than an actor.
That's right, yeah, because these characters are sort of playing fictionalized versions of themselves. And I put in one of my reviews, you're not going to hire LeBron James to win the Academy Award. You know what you're going to get with him. Michael Jordan wasn't the best actor, but he sold the character, the person that he was meant to be, himself. So if you go into this thinking LeBron James is going to be some revolutionary Leonardo DiCaprio, then you're going to come away complaining. But like you said, to sell the NBA player that he is, he does a good job. He serves on the court where it's needed, all his basketball moves and his athleticism. And even at the end, when things come to a climax, he does tap into the father in him, as well as just an NBA star. So I think he's an easy target to attack, really, because he's not an actor. He's an NBA star. But he does when it's delivered. He does serve up when it's needed, I think. And that's not the worst aspect of the film, to be fair.
And what do you think of the blend of 2D and 3D animation in this movie? Do you think that it was well improved, it was well worked on? I mean, do you think this is something that we can give a few points to this movie for?
Indeed, I do. Like I said, animation it's a very heavy market to compete in nowadays. Again, as I said before, with the Pixar and the 3D animation, everything else. But, Warner Brothers took Looney Tunes in 2D. They injected the modern 3D aspect to make them work with LeBron James and everyone. And they look good. They were good models of the characters that we know and love. And also the voice acting was spot on. So there was nothing lost, I think, in terms of animation. It just didn't fit with the modern expectations. But again, watching it, you can't help but smile at the wackiness and slapstick of, Daffy Duck being hit in the head with a frying pan, or Bugs Bunny exploding with the Acme dynamite. It's a very childhood innocence that has probably been lost. So seeing those aspects, it's quite nice. It's a quite nice, nostalgic feeling, really.
Right. Chris, now unfortunately, Space Jam 2 could not make its position very strong on IMDb, with 4.3 ratings and 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you think that critics went a little overboard in, underrating the movie?
They probably did. I'm one of them myself, to be fair. But again, it's an easy target. I think after a year or so of, like you said, going to streaming giants for films or a lot of the old classics that are coming out, when something new comes along, everyone wants fresh blood. We want to pull it apart and see if it's worth our money, worth investing in. Does it make us feel happy or excited? And if it doesn't, then it's something to pull apart. And again, with a film like Space Jam, it's trying to capitalize on a film that came 25 years before. So people are going to go into that expecting something really special, or if it's a reboot or a remake, the bar is set high. And if they want to cross that bar, then the critics will be out with their knives out, wanting to see if it's worthy of being a reboot or a remake. And I don't think this one is worthy, but on the flip side, it does deliver what children may want. It's fun, it's silly, it's a bit of 2 hours escapism, but I don't think it's going to hit the mark of what critics want for a brand new, modern Space Jam rejuvenation. I think that's where it fell down.
Right. Chris, it was great discussing this movie with you. Thank you very much for your time.
A pleasure. Thank you very much.
That was Chris Gelderd reviewing Space Jam 2. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.